Welcome to the 2018 MEA Alternate Science Test Administration Training. I am Sue Nay, your Alternate Assessment Coordinator from the Maine Department of Education, and presenting with me are Jimmy Hartman and Gina Triosi from Measured Progress. Today, we will give you an overview of the Personalized Alternate Assessment Portfolio, or PAAP, including the purpose of the PAAP, how to determine student participation, the types of support available to students, administering a PAAP, and using the task bank. We will provide information regarding scoring and submitting a PAAP and looking at reporting. The 2018-19 Administration Handbook and User's Guide are posted on the Maine DOE Test Administration website. You can also find the Alternate Grade Level Expectations, AGLES, on the Resources page. You may follow along in the Administration Handbook by looking at the open book symbol on the lower center of a slide. The number or numbers reference the page where information related to the topic being discussed can be found. Our goals today are for participants to become familiar with the Administration Handbook, understand which students are appropriate for the inclusion in a Personalized Alternate Assessment Portfolio, PAAP, and to start becoming familiar with the PAAP AGLES, TASK, and the task bank. Inside the front cover of the Administration Handbook, you will find contact information for both Maine DOE and Measured Progress, the personnel you may need to contact during the administration window. The task bank opened on December 1st. Please begin to register yourself and your students. This is an opportune time to look over tasks to plan for instruction during the year. Speaking with general education teachers at this time also helps with mainstreaming or teaching the same subjects at the same time. March 1st is always the last day to register students. All students need to be registered to receive return material kits. Should a student move into your district after March 1st, you will be responsible to have this student transferred within the PAAP system. You may contact Jimmy Hartman or Gina Triosi or myself to complete this transfer. April 30th is equally important as it is the last final day of the task bank being opened. All PAAPs must be submitted April 30th by close of day, 5 p.m. UPS will come to your school on May 2nd to collect all PAAPs. Please become familiar with the websites located on the front cover of the handbook. You will find a link to the PAAP Task Bank and the Handbook and User Guide on the PAAP Test Administration Materials and Training page. This webinar is posted in the Additional Materials section. The AGLES and PAAP Blueprint are found in the Supports and Resource link. The purpose of the PAAP is to provide information about the academic achievement and progress of students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. The PAAP serves as the alternate assessment for these students who, because of their unique learning needs, cannot access the general MEA science assessment. The PAAP was created in 2000 to assess student work based on the Maine learning results. A task bank was developed with items reduced in depth and breadth to match the Maine learning results standards and provide specific levels of complexity. The portfolio format allows teachers to embed instruction into their teaching throughout a 5-month time period. The number of standards assessed in science has been reduced for the alternate assessment. State and federal laws require the participation of all students in statewide assessments. The PAAP is a portfolio collection of student work which allows students with significant cognitive disabilities the opportunity to demonstrate their understanding of the state standards at a level that is challenging and obtainable. In addition, it is being the law. Assessment helps to determine how much a student is learning and to identify challenging goals in instruction. Evidence indicates that students learn more when they are engaged in instruction based on the state's learning standards. Maine's comprehensive alternate assessment system is comprised of the MEA Mathematics and English Language Arts Literacy, which is referred to as Empower, MEA Science and their alternates, which are referred to as MSAA and PAAP. The MEA WIDA Access for ALS is also a required assessment for English learners. Maine also participates in the National Assessment of Education Progress, NAEP. This chart reinforces that all students are assessed. ELA and mathematics are assessed in grades 3 through 8 and the third year of high school, while science is assessed in grades 5, 8, and the third year of high school. All assessments are administered in the spring and assess what has been taught during the current academic year. In 2017-18, 405 students participated in MEA Alternate Science, the PAAP. Last year, 465 students were assessed. According to the new federal law, only 1% of Maine students within the testing grades may participate in an alternate assessment. Data shows us that 1.04% of our students were assessed with the PAAP Science. Results from last year's test showed that approximately 48% of our students achieved proficiency. Levels of complexity increase throughout the grades. The Maine Learning Results Standards have been backed down in breadth and depth, and items were developed according to grade level standards. As you can see by this chart, students from all grade levels participated in various levels of complexity. The Every Student Succeeds Act requires that all students participate in a system of standards, assessment, and accountability. Most students will be assessed with standard administration. There are some students who are able to assess the assessment with the use of state-approved accommodations. While accommodations do not make the assessment easier for the student, they are meant to remove barriers that exist that would impact the ability to show what students know and can do. A very small number of students cannot access the standard assessment, even with accommodations. Maine's alternate to the MEA Science is the Personalized Alternate Assessment Portfolio PAAP, which has been created based on alternate achievement standards which are aligned to grade level expectations. Determining participation in alternate assessments. A significant cognitive disability is not a separate category of disability, but is rather intended to include the small number of students, the 1%, who are within one or more of the existing categories of disability under IDEA. These students require specialized instruction with learning standards that have been developed with less depth and breadth in order to make academic gains and are unable to access the general assessment even with accommodations. Their disability impacts all aspects of daily living skills. The decision to participate in PAAP is never solely based on a student's category of disability, language differences, achievement levels, school attendance, or cultural and environmental factors. A student demonstrating delays in reading or the inability to read does not qualify him or her to take part in the PAAP. As part of the IEP process, teams must determine the appropriate avenue for participation in the state assessment. The IEP must indicate why the student cannot participate in the general assessment and why the PAAP is the most appropriate assessment. This section must be completed in the IEP as well as the accommodations. To guide the decision-making process, teams are encouraged to use the flowchart for determining the appropriate avenue of assessment found on page 21, the documentation for participation on page 22, and the participation guidelines on page 24. This eligibility flowchart may be used for determining eligibility for alternate assessments. The first bubble speaks to using results from cognitive testing, adaptive behavior skills assessment, achievement, and district tests, examples of curriculum, and work samples from school or community-based instruction, and present levels of academic and functional performance to consider eligibility. On the right, question 1 asks if the student has documentation of a disability or disabilities that significantly impact intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior. Question 2 asks if a student would be appropriately challenged by goals and instruction linked to the enrolled grade level state standards, knowledge, and skills. Question 3A inquires if a student requires extensive, repeated, individualized instruction and support that are not of a temporary nature. Question 3B asks the last qualifying question. Does the student use substantially adapted materials with individualized methods of accessing information in alternate ways to acquire, maintain, generalize, demonstrate, and transfer skills across all the content areas? If the answer is yes to all of these questions, the student is eligible to be assessed with an alternate assessment. This should be a familiar checklist to most of you. There are 3 main qualifications for participating in an alternate assessment. If any of the criteria on the checklist are marked no, the student is not eligible for alternate assessment. This checklist may be used as part of the IEP process. The sources of evidence listed on the right side of the document are suggested sources, or a guide that you may use to determine eligibility for participating in the PAAP. You do not need to provide all examples. All students taking part in PAAP should be challenged by the tasks associated with the PAAP. Over-identification of students participating in PAAP may result in an inquiry of identification practices. This is a one-page guideline that reiterates the 2 previous slides. It provides another way of determining and even documenting the need for a student to participate in alternate assessment. In addition, 14 reasons that may not be used to determine eligibility are included at the bottom of the document. They include such reasons as behavior and student absentee. Please take time to look this document over and utilize it at IEP meetings. In addition to the flowchart and the criteria list, IEP teams should review the state's approved accommodations, the grade level standards, and the alternate grade level expectations. It is important to ensure that students are given the opportunity to participate in the general assessment curriculum to the greatest extent possible, and to provide challenging curriculum to students. Previous state assessment results should also be reviewed to see how the student performed. If the student is able to access the general assessment with or without accommodations, then the student must participate in the general assessment. Only those that meet the criteria requirements and do not have access to the general assessment should take the PAAP. Maine's alternate grade level expectations, AGLES, for the PAAP are written on a continuum of 8 levels of complexity, LOCs. They are aligned to Maine's 2007 learning results. The LOCs represent a learning continuum constructed by using grade level content, reducing complexity to ensure access to curriculum and instruction for all students. Maine's AGLES provide a common basis for the planning of standards-related instruction and assessment in a system that allows students to work on the required AGLES, indicators, LOC descriptors, and tasks best suited to their individual needs while maintaining alignment to grade level content. The layout of the PAAP AGLES for Science reflects the format of Maine's 2007 learning results under Maine's Accountability Standards, Chapter 131, to which the Science AGLE indicators are aligned. At the top of each page, the reader will find a header with Maine's Accountability Chapter 131 AGLE indicator and title. The student expectations for that AGLE are written in italics below the AGLE. Exactly how the student demonstrates understanding is detailed in the LOC descriptor table, immediately following the student's expectations, such as the student will identify pictures or descriptions of given animals or plants. Different grade levels are covered within the LOCs. Teachers should move students along in the LOCs in order to increase their students' proficiency level. For example, if a student's score is 100 in accuracy with minimal assistance, you should move the student to the next LOC. We want to see what the student can do at the highest possible level. LOCs 1 through 4 are available to students in grade 5. LOCs 1 through 6 are available to students in grade 8. LOCs 1 through 8 are available to students in the third year of high school. Since all students must be involved in general curriculum to the greatest extent possible, teachers are encouraged to plan instruction aligned to the PAAP LOC descriptor for each AGLE indicator selected as appropriate for inclusion in a student's instructional program. Following the delivery of planned instruction, assessment of the student's related knowledge and/or skills should be completed using PAAP tasks aligned to that LOC descriptor. The completed tasks, along with the required forms, will make up the student work that serves as the content of the PAAP. The PAAP task bank can be located by going to the PAAP website listed on the screen above. The PAAP task bank is open December 1st through April 30th. Any attempt to access the PAAP task bank prior to December 1st will result in a message stating that the task bank is closed. We are asking you to complete all your instruction from December 1st through March 1st. On March 1st, you can move forward and complete your testing of your students. Sending schools are responsible for verifying that students who are tuitioned to a special purpose private school, SPPS, or out-of-district programs are assessed. PAAPs will be picked up from the school where the student receives education and is being assessed. PAAPs will be picked up at the special purpose private schools. This portion of the training will break down the 3 types of supports that are permissible when administering a PAAP. 3 types of support are the PAAP-approved accommodations, flexibility in presentation, and PAAP levels of assistance. The following accommodations features are approved for use with the PAAP. They do not alter what the test measures or the comparability of results. When used properly, accommodations remove the barriers to participation and assessment and provide students with diverse learning needs an equitable opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge and skills. The accommodations for PAAP, in addition to those on the approved list for the general assessment. Enlargement of materials, graphics, and test components of the task may be enlarged. Caution should be taken when doing this, as all components of the item should be enlarged to the same percentage or size. If you are unable to enlarge materials, Measure Progress would be happy to provide those for you. You will need to provide detailed information of what you are looking for. Be specific about the document or documents needed. If you need color copies and you're on a budget, print 1 copy and share it. Show students the images on a screen and print it in black and white, or if color is essential to the student completing the task correctly, Measure Progress can print copies for you. Many images are fine in black and white and will work. Some items require the color to answer it. Alternate augmentative communication. Signs or symbols that are part of the student's daily communication system may be substituted for pictures provided in a task. In each case, the symbol or picture submitted must represent the object, word, or idea listed on the work template within the task. That is, if the symbol to be identified is for big, the symbol substituted must also represent the word big. Features include the use of concrete objects, Whenever possible, a concrete object may be substituted for a picture object. The concrete object must match the pictured object. For example, a real block may be substituted for a picture of a block. However, if you substitute a block, in this case, you must substitute all objects within the item with concrete objects. Picture card or description cards. The picture cards or description cards provided for a task may be used by the student instead of the work template. In such instances, all student responses must be recorded by the teacher on the student work template. All student work pages must include a student response. Extended time. Tasks may be broken into sections to be done on different days. Students could work on the items on given days. Visual support for graphics. Teachers may name or describe the contents of a given picture as long as the name or description does not provide the answer required in the task. Multiple testing opportunities. If a student is unsuccessful on a given task following reteaching of the related content, the task may be re-administered any time during the testing window. Each item has a specific task description page. The directions for task administration provide specific assistance you may use to support a student, such as the teacher reads or the student reads. It will tell you when you may use picture support. If a student needs support beyond those provided through approved accommodations or the flexibility that is part of every paid task description, the opportunity to use individualized levels of assistance is provided. Supports classified as levels of assistance are teacher-developed support mechanisms that, while not modifying the content being measured, assist the student in completing the task or retrieving the answer to a particular question without actually providing that answer to the student. Levels of assistance are determined on a 3-point scale of 1 through 3, each affecting the overall score of a PAAP task. As the support the teacher provides decreases, the point value increases. Level of Assistant 1 provides the greatest amount of assistance to the student, such as modeling or demonstrating a response similar to the response desired. For example, teacher says, "When I turn on the faucet, water comes out. This water is liquid." Actual test question, look at the picture. Is the water shown in the picture solid or liquid? Level of Assistance 2 includes the following supports. The use of Option 2. This is only available at LOC 1. In tasks where it is appropriate, the items will have an Option 2 template included in the extra pages that print with the entry. Using Option 2 allows for fewer of the item sets multiple times in order to match the student's knowledge. Teachers must use the item sets as they are presented, but may decrease the required number of items available. The results will be recorded on the Option 2 template. Item sets are those items within the original task in an unaltered state. One idea is to cut out the original items and paste them on the Option 2 worksheet to ensure that no changes are made to the item. Altering a task is one example that makes the item unscorable more often than not because the pictures have been changed. In addition to the use of Option 2, limiting a student's response by removing one response option is available, as is the use of clarifying questions to stimulate student thought without providing clues to specific answers is another example. You might ask, "Which happened first?" Level Assistance 2 also includes prompting and cueing. Option 2 is available only at LOC 1. Using Option 2 allows for fewer of the item sets to be administered multiple times in order to match students' knowledge. 2 item sets may be used on 3 different occasions, or the same set may be used on 6 different occasions. Teachers must use the item sets as they are presented, but may decrease the required number of items assessed. The results may be recorded on the Option 2 template. Item sets are those items within the original task in an unaltered state. Let's look at an example of Option 2. In this case, the teacher chose to use 2 pictures 6 times. The teacher places a picture in front of the student and says, "Is this a picture of a woodland animal?" The teacher does not describe the picture to the student. Then the teacher circles the response expected on the left and the response provided by the student on the right. The student may choose to present 1, 2, or 3 pictures, one at a time. Each time a picture is shown, the teacher fills in the date and administers as many items as is appropriate for that student that day. Note, in the example above, the teacher administered the test over 3 days. Here is an example of how to administer an item with fewer answer options. Simply cross out one of the answers to offer fewer choices. At level of assistance 2, teachers may limit a student's response in all levels of complexity, except at level 1, by removing one response option. If an item has 4 choices, the teacher may remove one choice, so the student has 3 answer choices instead. Options at level LOC1 cannot be removed, as there are typically only 2 options. In the few instances where there are 3 options for LOC1, all 3 options must appear. The lowest level of assistance provides the students with a score of 3. For this level of assistance, the student is able to answer the items independently. This includes students who participate when the teacher reading aloud when it is approved for use on the task description page. Teachers can always provide encouragement to the students. Students may use the most appropriate mode of communication to answer. Directions can be repeated. Passages that are allowed to be read may be reread to the student, or the student may reread those passages that they are required to read. Finally, the teacher may remind a student to stay focused. These types of supports have no impact on what the test measures. These students participate with a level of assistance 3. Note that hand over hand is not allowed at any level of assistance. Here is an example of choosing the level of assistance by marking an X in the box for the appropriate level. Please make sure you choose the type of support given within that particular level of assistance. This is required and will make your task unscorable if left out. Please note, the reason you decided to choose a particular level of assistance, it must be marked as well. A blank in either area will make this item unscorable. In order for students to increase achievement levels, continue to move them to the higher LOCs whenever possible. The LOC has the most weight in the scoring formula. We want to assess students at the highest level of complexity that their cognitive ability allows. The purpose is to challenge students to reach their fullest potential possible. Examples of scoring using different levels of LOCs will be given further in this webinar. Step 1, planning for the PAAP. Meet with the student's IEP team to determine the appropriate avenue of participation in the state assessment using the guidelines on page 2 of the Administration Handbook. The team should use the following in the planning process: the flowchart for determining appropriate avenue of assessment, see page 21 of the handbook; documentation for participation, see page 22 of the handbook; and the participation guidelines, see page 24 of the handbook. Step 2. The PAAP profile system provides AGLES indicators that are required for the student's inclusion in instruction and assessment. Students are tested at grade level through AGLES indicators, which were designed to be aligned with the content that their peers are receiving in the general education setting. Next, we will review the level of complexity descriptors for each AGLES indicator and select the level that is appropriate yet challenging for the student. Student registration is handled through the PAAP Task Bank. Registration occurs between December 1st and March 1st each year. Only students on the PAAP roster as of March 1st will receive a return materials kit. We encourage all teachers to have student enrollment as close to December 1st as possible to allow opportunity for the assessment to be fully embedded into daily instruction.
After the planning process has occurred, the next step is to register your student to participate in the PAAP. To do this, you are required to create a user account within the Task Bank. You are required to create a new account within the Task Bank each year. The Task Bank User's Guide, Task Bank tab in the Handbook, offers step-by-step screenshots to assist you through the process of creating a user account, registering a student, accessing tasks within the Task Bank, and submitting students for scoring. The User's Guide is available on the login page of the PAAP website. Upon entering the Measured Progress Profile website, the Task Bank, you will see the sign-in page. This Task Bank is password protected. Under the Sign-in button, you will also see a link to the PAAP web manual. This sign-in page can be found on page 6 in the handbook. Registration provides immediate access to the Task Bank. To begin the registration process, either click Go to Registration page in the top blue banner or click Here in the center of the page. This is the registration page where you will set up an account. As you can see, you need to enter your email address and password twice to ensure that it is entered correctly. Click on Submit Registration when you are done. This is the next screen that will appear. Enter your first and last name, then select your district and school from the drop-down menus and click Save. Your registration process is not complete until you have associated yourself with the district and school. When you are finished working in Profile, please remember to click on Sign Out in the top right corner. Once you're registered in the Profile Task Bank, there are some administrative functions on your My Account page. These include teacher information. This presents the information that you entered when you registered. My School List. Click on this tab to see your school. Need help finding your school? You would want to click on this link if your school does not appear on the drop-down menu. The schools and districts listed in Profile were provided to measure progress in November. If there has been a change in your school status between now and then you'll have to contact the alternate assessment coordinator, Sue Nay, to assist in adding your school to Profile so you can complete your registration. Change my password. If you want to change your password, click on this link. You can change your password as often as you like. If you have students in more than one school within your district who will be doing a PAAP this year, you can add these schools to your account using the Add an Additional School to My Account on your My Account page in Profile. Click on Add an Additional School to My Account, then go to the drop-down list and click on the school name and click on Add School. You can then go back to the My Schools list to verify that the school has been added to your account. This enables you to manage multiple schools through one account. You also have the ability to ask questions through the profile system under the My Questions link. This link provides an opportunity to ask questions via profile. Either Sue, myself, Gina, or the Service Center will respond to the question. The status of the question will then change to replied. However, if your question is time sensitive, you should contact the Service Center or SUNE by email or phone directly. You can ask a question through the Create a New Question link. Use this feature to send a question about registering a PAAP student or completing a PAAP for the student. Please fill in the subject line with a brief description. Then complete the question box, providing pertinent details. Please note that this site is encrypted, so the information sent will be secure. Be sure to include the student's name, state student ID number, and grade to facilitate a response. Once the process of creating a user account has been completed, you can then register students to your account. You will add students to your roster by entering the student state student ID number and verifying the student's name and grade. Once this ID number has been entered, you will be directed to the student informational page. If you do not know your student SSID number, ask the school's office for assistance. To register a student to your account, click on Add a Student to My List link on the My Students page and enter the student state student ID number. Remember, the SSID number has 9 digits. After you have entered the SSID number, click Check SSID. Profile will verify the number is correct and that the student has not been registered by another teacher. If your student has moved into your school, you will need to contact SUNE to transfer the student to your school. If you receive a message in red, the student cannot be registered, please contact SUNE for assistance.
When your student registration is complete, you are ready to access and choose tasks from the task bank. After providing instruction around the required AGLES indicators, you will use the tasks from the task bank to assess the student's proficiency and develop the portfolio. If a desired level of accuracy is not obtained, reteaching may occur and the task re-administered. On page 26 of the Administration Handbook is the PAAP blueprint. This shows the AGLES required at each grade. Please note that only grades 5, 8, and third-year high school students participate in science. If a student is in his or her 4th year and in grade 11, the student does not need to take the assessment again. Those students who are in 3rd year high school students but in 10th grade should participate. Go to the My Students and click My Student List. These are the students who are registered to your account. Note the status of the students. You will be able to start working in the task bank for those students who have a status of open. Clicking on Select in the row with the student's name will provide access to the task bank for that student. This table of contents autofills the student's name, grade, state student ID number, and the AGLES indicators that are required for the student's grade level. The top left corner shows that this page is accessed from the My Student List page. Next to My Student List is Print This page. This is where you may print a copy of the item to be assessed. Science has 3 entries at all grade levels. D4, E3, and E4 are shown here. Beneath the AGLES indicators are the LOCs that are available for this student. Click on the LOC that you'll need to administer this portion of the PAAP, the entry slip, the task description page, the student work template, and the task summary page. Next to this link is the task summary page where you will enter the scores electronically for tasks associated with this entry. After you had administered this entry, you can lock the entry by clicking on the Open Lock system. If you want to unlock the entry, just click on the Close Lock symbol, which will then change to an Open Lock symbol. Please remember to print the table of contents found in the upper left-hand corner above the black bar. You will need to submit this with your portfolio. Each AGLE indicator contains an entry slip. Science contains 3 entries. An entry slip is generated with each PDF download. Fill in the student's name and grade on each entry slip. The entry slip will automatically indicate the LOC that you have selected for the student, as well as the AGLE indicators that are needed to be assessed. When submitting the final entry, you will want to be sure that the LOC on the entry slip matches the LOC of this task or tasks that you are submitting in the student's portfolio. Each AGLE begins with a clear task description. Review of the prior knowledge will assist in telling you if all instruction needed for this task has been given to the student. Description of the task and directions for administering them are given step by step. The task description will tell you if reading aloud to the student is appropriate or not. Most important are the expected responses from the teacher. This will assist you in correcting the task. Remember to submit the task descriptions in the portfolio to assist those scoring the portfolio. Include this sheet in your student's portfolio. Follow the directions for task administration located on the task description page when administering the task. Once the task has been completed, either you or the student will record the student's responses on each work template. Each item for the task should have a clearly marked response. Here is a sample of a completed student work template. This page must also be included with the submission of the portfolio. If student work is missing, it will result in an unscorable task and/or entry. Here you can also see that the work was corrected. Please use the C for correct and X for incorrect. Do not use check marks or any other marks for correcting, as it can be confusing for scorers. Transfer the student's name, date, and scores to the task summary page. Using the levels of assistance chart, determine the level of assistance that was provided by marking an X for level of assistance 1, 2, or 3. You must indicate why this level of assistance was chosen. Scorers can easily tell the level of assistance given to a student for a particular item when both the level and the specific reason for choosing the level is given. A reason of other may be used should your assistance provided not be listed. This is a required component of the task, which is part of the student's score. If both areas are not marked, the item will become unscorable. Electronically complete and submit the task summary pages on or by April 30th. This is a sample of the online task summary page and profile. Note that the student's name has been filled in. However, you will need to enter the date the task was completed. No final task should be completed before March 1st. Transfer the student's correct or incorrect responses based on the scored student work. template and in the Level of Accuracy section. As you click on C or X for each item, the percent correct will be calculated automatically. Notice that the 3 items have been scored correct and the percent correct is calculated. Assemble the portfolio. Each AGLE will have an entry slip and 3 items per task. Each AGLE will have 2 tasks. The task description page, the student work template sheet, and the task summary page for each task is required. Only submit 2 tasks for each entry. The tasks within an entry must be the same and match the level of complexity on the entry slip. Many of the tasks contain cutouts, graphics, and/or stories. Do not submit this type of extra material in the portfolio. The items you submit electronically should be the only ones submitted in your portfolio. This portfolio assembly checklist has been developed and provided for you. Please utilize this checklist to make sure you include all of the necessary components of the portfolio to ensure your student receives an optimal opportunity to achieve a fair score. This is also on page 31 of your administration manual.
Here is a visual representation of what the PAAP entries should contain. Science has 3 entries that contain 2 tasks each. Task description pages are critical for scoring and are a required part of the portfolio. As you can see, each entry slip is followed by the task description page, the completed student work, and the task summary page. Arrange each AGLE entry in alphabetical order and then in numerical order by indicator. For example, you can see that for grade 5, D1 is followed by D2, which is followed by E2. Please print the table of contents from the task bank. When printing from the task bank, the fields will be populated with the exception of the student name. The table of contents will show all the AGLE indicators required for the student's grade level. If you submit a portfolio before printing out the table of contents, you will not be able to go back in to print this document. However, you can print a blank page on the PAAP website. Here is an example of an acceptable binder to use for the portfolio entries. Please use the smallest binder needed. All binders must have fasteners to hold the pages together. Do not staple the pages together. We recommend a 3-ring binder of 1/2 inch or 1 inch. We recommend creating the binder when you register, printing out the table of contents page, and putting materials into the binder as you test the student, instead of waiting until the end and scrambling to create the binders just before shipping. The table of contents is the first required page in the portfolio. Then insert the entry slips alphabetically and numerically for each AGLE. In this case, D3 is followed by E1 and E5. Each entry slip must be followed by the task description page, the student work template, and the task summary page. In mid-April, Measure Progress will send each school a return material kit for any student who was enrolled in the PAAP Task Bank by 5 p.m. on March 1st. Return material kits will contain 2 Tyvek envelopes for each student. One is an outer envelope, which will have a prepaid UPS label affixed, and the other is an inner envelope. To pack a completed portfolio, match the student name on the portfolio with the name on the student barcode on the inner envelope. Place the completed portfolio into the inner envelope. Do not seal this envelope. Place the inner envelope into the outer envelope and then seal the outer envelope. Measured Progress will schedule a one-day UPS pickup for the completed portfolios on May 2nd. Portfolios should be placed in the designated pickup spot at your school first thing in the morning. Please note that this is a special pickup and your regular UPS driver may not be the one stopping at your school. If the portfolio has not been picked up by the end of the day on May 2nd, please contact Measured Progress. We will work with UPS on our end to ensure the pickup of your portfolios. Do not contact UPS on your own, as you may incur a pickup charge. Above is an example of the inner envelope you will receive for each student. Please ensure you have the label completely filled out on the envelope and ensure the correct student's portfolio is in the correct envelope. You will receive one envelope per student you are testing. This is an example of the outer envelope you will place each portfolio in to ship back to Measured Progress. Please have all portfolios ready to be shipped. Just as another reminder, sending schools are responsible for verifying that students who are tuitioned to special purpose private schools or out-of-district programs are being assessed.
The first score for the PAAP is completed and submitted online. This is a two-step process. The first step is to enter your scores in the task summary sheets for each entry. Second, from your My Account page, click on the menu option at the very bottom of the screen, Submit Students for Scoring, and then follow the prompts on the screen. This is the final step and enters your scores into Profile to be used in the process for determining each student's final scores. Knowing how to score a portfolio will allow you to calculate the final score to determine the achievement level. You should do this calculation and see if you can move a student up in LOC so that the student may obtain a higher achievement level. The first score is completed by you, the teacher. The second score is completed by one of Measured Progress's trained scorers. All scorers have to pass a qualifying test to score. If they do not pass, then they are dismissed from the project. The scorers have a college degree. Achievement levels are calculated using the scoring rubric shown on page 29 and the cut score table shown on page 13 of your handbook. This scoring rubric shows you the three pieces of information that are required when determining a student's score: LOC, level of accuracy, and level of assistance. If any one piece of data is missing, the task will be unscorable. Also, please note that the level of complexity, or LOC, is shown first and holds the most weight when scoring a PAAP. Let's take a look at the process of calculating a student's final entry score. The formula is 5 times the LOC plus the level of accuracy plus the level of assistance minus 4. This student had an LOC of 3. For the level of accuracy, you need to determine the sum of level of accuracy points using each task in the entry. For task 1, they received 100% accuracy, equaling 4 points, and for task 2, they received 100% accuracy, equaling 4 points. This equals a sum of 8 for level of accuracy points. Using the sum of level of accuracy points table, we are able to determine that they will receive a 4 for level of accuracy points for their final entry score. Level of assistance is determined using the same method as level of accuracy. This student received a level of assistance of 3 for each task, which equals a sum of 6 for the level of assistance points. Using the sum of level of assistance points table, we are able to determine that this student will receive a 3 for level of assistance for their final entry score. Entering all these scores into the final entry score formula gives us an entry score of 18. So if this student scored 100% accuracy and had a level of assistance on each task, the max score the student will receive would be 54. Final scores from all 3 entries are added together to determine the student's raw score. Cut scores for achievement levels were set during a standard setting in June of 2010. If an entry is unscorable, it will be added as a 0. As you may notice that the range of cut scores is significantly different between the 3 grades. This is because additional LOCs are available as students progress through their next grade levels. On the previous example, we were scoring a 5th grade student. The student's score was a 54. Looking at the chart, the student scored at state expectations. For this student, tested as an LOC 3, this is the highest possible performance level. What if we challenge the student just a little more? Let's see what would happen if we move the LOC up for this student. This is an example of the same student. We just moved the LOC up to 4 instead of 3. Remember, the formula is 5 times the LOC plus the level of accuracy plus the level of assistance minus 4. This student had an LOC of 4. For the level of accuracy, you need to determine the sum of level of accuracy points using each task in the entry. For task 1, they received 25% accuracy, equaling 2 points for each task, equaling 2 points. And for task 2, they received 75% accuracy, equaling 3 points. This equals a sum of 5 for level of accuracy points. Using the sum of level of accuracy points table, we are able to determine that they will receive a 3 for level of accuracy points for their final entry score. Level of assistance is determined using the same method as the level of accuracy. This student received a level of assistance of 3 for each task, which equals a sum of 6 for the level of assistance points. Using the sum of level of assistance points table, we are able to determine that this student will receive a 3 for a level of accuracy for their final entry score. As you can see, we moved the LOC up and accuracy decreased, but let's see how this affected the student's score. Entering all these scores into the final entry score formula gives us an entry score of 22. This is 4 points higher than the previous example. Always remember that the LOC carries the most weight in the student's final entry score. Similar to the last example, let's say the student scored 22 on all entries. The student's final score would be 66. Let's see if that moved the student up an achievement level. The same 5th grade student scored a 66, which put them at an above state expectations level. Remember, the LOC carries the most weight in the scoring process. So please challenge your student. If they receive 100% accuracy on most or all the tasks, retest them at a higher LOC. Although they may need more assistance and may have a lower accuracy, their score could be higher and can place them at a higher achievement level.
Let's look at a few examples of an individual student report. This first example is a student that received a final overall score of 38 within the below state expectations performance category. Let's take a look at the scores for each entry and discuss how they achieved this score. This 8th grade student achieved the highest level of accuracy for 2 entries, consistently using a level of assistance 3, or independent, which was administered LOCs that varied 1, 2, or 3. Though his scores did not look low, this student scored in the below state expectations range. Students in grade 8 have LOCs 1 through 6 available to them. Had this teacher tried higher LOCs with more assistance, this student may have scored at the state expectation range. In this example, a student received a final overall score of 96, resulting in the at-state expectations performance level. This 8th grade student received a 61 to 85% accuracy on 2 tasks and 85 to 100% accuracy for 1 task. Though this student was independent on 2 tasks, the teacher gave more assistance on the 3rd task, realizing that the student could successfully complete the task at the LOC 6 if given more level of assistance. Again, the LOC carries the most weight in the final scores. Had the teacher been unhappy with a 61 to 85% score and gone back to the LOC 5, this student may not have been within the at-state level expectation. It is more important for your students to perform well, but it is also important for them to be challenged. This high school student received a final overall score of 92, which placed them into the at-state standards expectation level. The first thing I noticed is that the student was administered LOCs at the middle school and high school levels, LOC 5, 6, and 7. Given a lot of assistance, score of 1 for the first task, the student achieved an 85 to 100 score of accuracy. Within LOC 6 and 7, the student was given a level of assistance 2. Even with obtaining a level of accuracy at 61 to 84 and 20 to 60, the student was still able to achieve at-state expectation. This student had an entry that was not scorable, which greatly impacted their overall score. There are many reasons why this entry could have been unscorable. The teacher could have altered the test. The teacher may have used hand over hand. Information regarding the level of assistance may have been missing, or the entire task summary pages may have been missing. Regardless of the reason for this outcome, what is important to remember is to always follow the directions on the task description pages, including the student's work, marking the level of assistance used, and the reason you chose the level of assistance before they are submitted to measured progress. As a test administrator, your commitment includes all of the above areas for your code of conduct: embedding student work into daily instruction throughout the year, including student work that is accurate and recent, ensuring that student work is a combination of instruction and utilizing the opportunity for students to learn, develop, and demonstrate knowledge and skills. Please always challenge your students and include the original student work. Make sure that only use of accommodations and/or assistive technology that is part of your regular instruction is used. Remember, valid evidence of accurately scored items that will produce a reliable score. Complete portfolios that contain all required components. All evidence submitted must be authentic, accurate, and truthful. Never send paperwork materials home or leave them lying around. This is an assessment of work you provided and taught this year. It is secure material. Lastly, please download and sign our new test security agreement. It is found on the department's website. All teachers administering the paper are required to sign a test security agreement stating they have followed the code of conduct. Give this to your principal. The department will also be creating a test security handbook to be used with all assessments, general and alternate. The quality and usefulness of the assessment data generated by assessment depends on the uniformity of test administration and the security of test materials. Valuable information about student achievement of content standards, measuring the effectiveness of the Maine College and Career Readiness Standards can be seriously compromised if test security is not strictly implemented and maintained. Test security is protecting the security of test questions, ensuring that student work on the assessment represents the independent work of that student, ensuring that nothing unfairly interferes with a student's work. Test security ensures uniformity of testing administration, validity of test results, accuracy of student achievement measures. And why does test security matter? Test results are used to make educational decisions at the local, state, and federal levels. It is critical that test results are accurate, fair, and comparable. Please remember, using actual test materials to familiarize students with test-taking strategies is a violation of test security and testing procedures. There may be penalties associated with the test security violations, including a delay in the reporting of student, school, or SAU results, invalidation of student, school, or SAU results, an investigation by the Department of Education for possible certification action. Test security is the responsibility of everyone who comes into contact with testing materials, including school principals, school test coordinators, test administrators, and students. Each of these roles should receive instruction on test security policies. The Maine DOE is responsible to establish and communicate test security policies and procedures. Students should be informed about test security and ethical considerations. Do not participate in any form of cheating. Only provide answers that are strictly their own. Do not consult notes, textbooks, or other teaching materials. Do not use cell phones, computers, or other digital or electronic devices. Do not share test questions with one another or consult other students, staff, or anyone else accessible to them during test administration. Duplication of test materials is prohibited. Duplication includes, but is not limited to, audio taping, videotaping, photographing, photocopying, and handwritten copying. These include both online and paper test materials. When using paper, pencil testing materials, monitor the distribution and use of these materials. All secure test materials must be locked after each testing day or period. Under no circumstances should anyone have access to test materials other than trained school personnel designated to be directly involved with test administration. You are responsible for protecting test materials from being viewed by unauthorized individuals. If you suspect a potential test irregularity has occurred, you should contact the test coordinator immediately. The test coordinator will then determine if the irregularity can be addressed on-site and escalates the issue to the district assessment coordinator if needed. The test coordinator or district assessment coordinator may then contact the Maine DOE. The Maine DOE will then advise the district assessment coordinator regarding a resolution. The district assessment coordinator will work with the Maine DOE on any required investigation. Having an additional adult present during test sessions, in addition to the test administrator, is recommended. Though we know it may not be feasible in all situations, it is a good practice. It allows continuous supervision of the test administration in case a test administrator must leave the room to locate a school test coordinator or technology person, or to accompany a student to the nurse, or perhaps assist a student through a crisis. This next section talks about common errors that may occur with the PAAP portfolio. Common testing areas include items or tasks were altered, an item or a task was missing, the student's work was missing, the task summary page was missing, the student's work was not corrected or graded correctly, the wrong LOC was scored, the level of accuracy was not completed correctly, the level of assistance was not recorded, or more than the latest dated LOC was submitted. Only send in what you want scored electronically. One example of a student's work is above. A scorer can only score what they see. Student work must be recorded. Glue or tape picture answers and record letter or words in the answer column. If the scorer at Measure Progress cannot see how the student responded, then the task will be marked unscorable. Another example asks the teacher to record pictures to show how a student responded to sorting by using the numbers given on each response picture. You can also glue the pictures on the worksheet. The task description page gives specific details for recording, so please follow the directions carefully. Again, if Measured Progress cannot see how the student responded, the task will be marked unscorable. Another example of a task is a student's choice matches the teacher's request. The teacher must check which option she or he wants the student to respond to. This is very important as Measure Progress scores each portfolio a second time. If we do not know what the teacher's request was of the student, we cannot score, and the task will be unscorable. This is an example of a task that asks the students to choose one animal and match the part of its environment or food to the selected animal. The student only chooses one animal to match. So in this example, the student is matching dog with responses on the right. There should only be 2 lines drawn from one animal, one for its environment and one for its food. The student will receive 100% by matching the environment and food for one animal. All other answers are marked as correct because the student followed directions and did not choose the other answers. Please remember that students must be enrolled in the task bank before March 1st. The school that the student attends is responsible for registering the student in profile. Note that the task bank will be locked for registration at 5 p.m. on March 1st. Only students registered by March 1st will receive a return materials kit. Did we meet our goals? Do you feel comfortable using the Administration Handbook? Understand which students are appropriate for inclusion in the Personalized Alternate Assessment Portfolio, PAAP? Do you feel comfortable with the PAAP AGLES tasks in the task bank and feel confident to prepare valid PAAPs for scoring? Please contact Sue Nay at sue.nay@maine.gov or 624-6774 with questions or comments. Thank you.